Alright guys, and welcome to the 68th episode of Below the Bar.
In this episode, expect to find out our thoughts on the US election, how King Charles has been siphoning money away from the NHS,
And why David Goggins is not the role model you think he is.
let's get into it.
Hello, welcome back. This is a Below the Bar ep. So, nothing military this time.
We might touch on it. There is an overlap.
There's always an overlap. So we're going to go through segments today.
Yeah, so this is basically going to be a bit of a catch-up and some segments for you. So we are overdue on. It's been a good few weeks since we've touched base with you all as to what we've been up to.
Yeah. What's been happening, actually?
Well, you've done your HYROX.
And you've done a half.
Yeah.
It happens, it's basically the same every time.
Yeah, we've done something.
Yeah.
It's not impressive, but,
Yeah, not impressive at all, really. Didn't win HYROX, which is gash. But
didn't get you sub 1 hour, which actually objectively is bollocks, because you should have done.
Bollocks, ain't it? I was really annoyed. So yeah, we did HYROX in Poland this weekend, and we were aiming for sub 60 minutes in the pro category, if that means anything to anyone. It's a fairly fast time in that category, I think. And I was actually really confident going in, which is annoying. Because the run-throughs we've done have been like 57 minutes, 55 minutes, whatever. But obviously there's differences with how the weights feel and how the rock zone goes. And so I knew it would add a little bit on. But then I thought equally on the day you're going to go quicker anyway.
Yeah, well, it's from the digging that I did into the past scores and stuff of people who've done kind of like the pro category from like various different HYROXs, I think from last season. If you got kind of sub 4 on your runs, you're almost definitely kind of nailed on for a sub 1 hour overall.
We were well under as well. We were one of our kilometres was 3:34.
So I don't actually know how you've not managed to get a sub 1 hour. Like the rock zone's just fucking seen you off, I think.
It's not even that, I don't think. The sled pull, right, this is bollocks. Took us 5 minutes. And everyone else who did a remotely decent time, so like around an hour total time, they were about 3 minutes. So there's your sub hour there, 2 minutes off. But everyone around us in the sled pull, if you can go to the filter it out and go sled pull and whatever, we were 5th from bottom in the sled pull, right, which is mental.
That's mad.
And everyone around us, their total times were like an hour and a half.
That is so annoying though, because that is quick on the runs.
Yeah,
so the fact that just like a slightly slower than average kind of like sled pulls derailed you completely, I think it's a bit bollocks.
No, going in I was thinking, unless something mental happens, I reckon we'll get sub 1.
It is bollocks though, because like it's not a standardised race. So it's like you look at it and you think, oh, it's all the same. So like, you score at Birmingham,
same as you score at
but it's not, because obviously the layout of the venue is different at each race. So it is completely different. Because the difference between accumulating like 100 metres each time you go into the rock zone, between kind of like an extra 300 metres, you're talking like the best part like 5 minutes over the course of the race. That's not standardised, is it?
Our rock zone time was about 4 minutes something, which again, like if you take that off, you're under. But you obviously can't take that off. And on the day, to be fair, there was a load of fucking fast pairs. There was like some lads who got 54 odd minutes in the fucking pro category. And you can't argue they're obviously running the same course, aren't they? So there's obviously some stuff we can improve on there, I think.
What they should be more transparent about is the actual distance
that you end up running.
Yeah, because it's 100%. Just a grey area, isn't it?
It's not 8k anyway, because the first loop, kilometre, was basically another half loop. So it was like 1.5, probably 1.4k. And then the last one again was about 1.2, 1.3. So
they should grade it really.
That's about 9k.
Like I don't know, like a traffic light system or something.
Like how hard it is.
Yeah, how long or how muggy the rock zone is basically like.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird event to be honest. It's really fucking good. It's really well run, and I don't know how they actually do it because there's thousands of people going through that same fucking system all day, and no one running into each other. So to deconflict everyone, it's such a fucking hard thing to do. So fair play to them, but
infinitely scalable.
Yeah, and that's why they do so well, innit? And like you've got, you'll remember from last year, electronic chip where as soon as you go over the line in the finish, you can literally log in, see your splits, everything's there. You can gamify it, you can compare it to last time. It's like that's what people get addicted to, and that's why. So I was sat next to some guy on the fucking plane, and he was like, "Yeah, it's my 13th HYROX," It's like people are just addicted, mate.
Mad that. That's a lot of money there. Because you can't be doing all them in the UK either. Or, like where he's actually originally from.
Well, actually, people were saying the Poland one was cheaper total than the London one. Because you got to get down to London, you got to stay in London, you got to buy the London ticket, which was more.
That's wild.
Polish ticket was really cheap. All the fucking accommodation was cheap. So it's like, actually, it's cheaper to go over to Poland, actually see an interesting city, and then go and do it. But yeah, I mean, it's really good. What me and Jay said was we just probably didn't train quite as specific as we should have done. Because we did it alongside other stuff. Fucking did an ultra 3 weeks ago. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like we were focused fully on that. And I think to get sub-hour, you probably do have to just focus on it for a bit.
That's boring.
Like 8 weeks.
That's fucking that shit.
It is a bit boring. We're going to do another one early next year, and we are going to do sub-hour in that one.
Well, we're not doing it, are we?
You heard it here first. No, exactly.
Because Valencia's just been cancelled because of the flooding over there, so that's good.
That's bollocks, isn't it?
It is. Well, we were going to pull the pin on it anyway, probably.
Yes,
because
yeah. Well, I think
it wouldn't really be right to go there.
I was going to say, we're not really the victims here, are we?
No, yeah, I mean, like 200 people have died. It would feel a bit insensitive to go over there for a race and expect kind of like a jolly weekend out of it, you know, when they're in a state of like national mourning.
Exactly. And so we're not doing that, but that does give me the ability to extend my next training block by a little bit of time, which is good.
But yeah, and also it probably works out. It works out for you a lot better anyway because you're not, you're away quite a lot from now until the end of the year.
Yeah.
So the last thing you needed really was
another
trip away, which also required you kind of doing a race effectively that you had to do some element of preparation for.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, yeah, it's true. I've got now.
You got carte blanche to do what you want until New Year now.
Well, turf games.
Oh, you got to that's gonna be fun.
I did a kind of CrossFit workout today, and I was hanging out, mate. It's just so different. It's just like cycling a dumbbell or whatever. It's just like fuck me.
You're right. It's different because it's constantly varied. That's the idea.
Yeah. It is just mental CrossFit, by the way. But there's a lot of stuff I like about it, and there is a lot of stuff that is just.
It's what the thing is with CrossFit is like because it's so attritional. The people who actually can stomach it basically and get through to the other side do end up being beasts. But what you don't see is the people that it chews up and spits out.
Exactly what we're talking about.
It's survivorship bias, isn't it? Yeah. Massively.
Yeah, and the people who choose them and spits out are now doing HYROX.
Yeah, are just broken. Yeah, effectively.
Yeah. The people who are doing HYROX, I think anyway. So like not the elites, but the Gen Pop who were doing it like hour 15 plus or whatever. I reckon those are the people who tried CrossFit years ago. Wasn't for them because they tried snatching and they were like, fucking hell, my shoulders popped out. And then they've gone to now HYROX and they're like, oh, fucking hell, I can run, I can lunge, I can do this. This is fine. So it gives them that avenue to push themselves, but they haven't got to navigate with these random movements.
And they know what's expected of them because it is, there's a clear structure to it and there's a formula. And
you can practice it. Thing is, and well, we spoke about this a little bit as well, the rules. Like there's not really a standardised set of rules because
that's the other massive
mental.
That's the other grey area alongside obviously the course layout and the rock zone being a bit of a fucking grey zone.
Yeah.
It's the standards, isn't it? Because like one person can get penalised for kind of not going parallel on the wall balls, for example, but then in literally the station next to them, their judge might not give a fuck.
Do you know you've seen that thing? So when someone can't hit depth, they can request a box, which doesn't even take them to depth, right? And then they have to hit the box. And a wall ball, when you get to sit on a box, think about
so much easier.
Think about how much easier a box squat is than the back squat.
Box wall ball. I didn't even think that was a thing.
It's not. It's not a thing for good reason. And so if you can't do depth, you just do. Basically, you still don't do depth.
That's mad. There's some other weird rules that you can get penalised for about like being. You have to be.
Behind your
directly behind your partner, which doesn't really matter. Like as long as you're behind them, it doesn't matter where they are, does it really? Like that's it's a bit anal that.
And we didn't know any of them, so we were like falling foul of them the whole race. Also, another one. This is fucking mad as well. So we mentioned the sled pull as being the one that we struggled on.
Yeah.
They kept pulling us up for the rope. You know when you bring the rope and it starts to accumulate in the box, and it obviously because it's a massive rope, and then you're also in the box. You don't want it in the way, so you fuck it off.
We spoke.
It has to be in the rope has to stay in the box.
It's such a shit system that because it's like there should be a separate box to the left or right hand side of you that only the rope is allowed in. Like that you should like there should be a box that you have to stay within, and then there should be a box to the side where you contain your rope.
Well,
because otherwise you're just stepping on your own rope. You can't manoeuvre, can you?
There ends up being just no room, so you're just not going anywhere. And then I saw a video of someone else doing it in Birmingham or somewhere, and their rope was fucking everywhere. So I was like, spending half my time trying to coerce the rope to be back into the box. That's what took us a little bit of time as well.
Well, they've changed the burpee broad jumps as well. I don't know whether people were getting done for it in Poznan, but for this season, you can't do the one step forward. You have to do the... You know, when you're coming up from the bottom of the burpee, you used to be able to do the one step forward.
Oh, you could do that in Poland.
Really?
Yeah.
You can't do. You're not supposed to be able to do that anymore. They changed the rules.
That's much harder, actually.
Yeah, I know. That's why they did it, because people were just... It's half the battle, isn't it? That really.
Well, that's allowed in CrossFit. They've been doing those kind of burpees for ages. Where the step up, it just keeps the heart rate down a little bit.
Yeah.
And it stops.
Well, because it's just then it narrows it down to one jump instead of two. If you have to do like the initial jump up from the burpee and then into a broad jump. It's back to back broad jumps effectively.
Yeah. So it was good. Just not quite the outcome we wanted. But we said this the whole time, because again, the partner I did it with was a little bit in a compromised state, should we say, in terms of what he'd been doing the week before. And we were like, look, as long as the effort is there, we didn't give a fuck. And that's what we said. We kind of say that about everything, but like that
effort's the only currency.
That's what was my caption on it.
Yeah.
But that is so true. And if you can 100% be honest and say you couldn't really go any faster, who cares whether you got an hour 1 or an hour 6 or whatever?
Yeah, blame someone else then. It's not your problem.
That is the main thing. As long as you left it.
Curate a blame culture.
Yeah. And I blame the sled for being too heavy. Yeah, and me for being too weak. But yeah, next time.
Yeah, so you've got turf games, and then what are you going to do after that? Get wham?
Yeah. March on training program. I'm in.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm going to just try and put a decent block together. Because to be honest, I tried following a different program. I actually need to cancel that now. I tried following a different program for HYROX, and a little bit too much volume, so I couldn't follow it all.
It makes sense, that.
It's a little bit strange. And so I need to now try and put, up until Christmas, a good block of training together. Because it's just hard to do when you're travelling and all that sort of stuff. Excuses, eh?
Yeah.
But yeah. How was your half? You did a half in Italy.
Me and Erica went over back to the fatherland
retiring there soon.
To do a very flat half marathon, which is literally on our doorstep. Really, it's mental to think that. We did it in one of the lakes, not Lake Como or Garda, but basically the equivalent of
similar. Yeah.
Really flat, or we just followed the road that kind of went around the lake. Yeah. No overall elevation, so it was ideal for a PB. Yeah, and we literally went there just to try and get her a sub 2 hour half. And
was it busy?
We did it within a minute of the goals. That was
easy.
Ideal, mate. Superb pacing from me. I am available for bookings. Yeah, it was, to be fair. It's billed as kind of like the most picturesque. It's not just a half. They run a 10, a 21, a 33 and a 42k.
33 is random, isn't it?
It's really good how they do it though, because you don't all start at the same place. It's kind of staggered around the lake.
That's cool.
So like the half marathon and the full marathon start at the same place, but then the 10
pick up the 10k.
Yeah, the 10k starts about halfway round. No, the 10k starts past the end of where the half marathon finishes. So you've got
how big's this lake?
Massive, mate.
Is it just around the lake? There's no other bit?
It's literally one road.
That's cool.
And on a map zoomed out, even the marathon only covers about like a quarter of this lake. It's
really
massive, mate.
That is mental.
It could be a sea.
That is mad. Yeah, fair one. I wasn't aware of that. Because I'm just picturing like lakes I've ran, like Lady Bower Lake.
No, it's big.
Which is, I think, big. Yeah.
But it's so mad. Picturesque, obviously, because you're kind of in the foothills of the Alps. And the weather was good. And yeah, she had to cling on a bit at about 15k mark. But like that's to be expected if you're going for a
PB is all
PB.
relative, isn't it? It's fucking, doesn't matter what time it is. there's always going to be that last 40% or whatever.
And if she was coasting, I'd be worried because that would suggest that she's not.
She's shooting for a 150 or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So we got a PB. Happy days. And I think I'm going to try and get a 5k PB in the rest of this year to try and there's kind of a crossover with the work I've been putting in for HYROX
and now you haven't got to do that.
So. Exactly. So now I can just focus on.
What are you doing now? Is that your next?
Yeah, in the next kind of 4 weeks, I'm going to try and get a 5k PB, and then the remainder of the time this year, I'm just going to do what you do and try and get back into like a bit of a consistent gym routine.
Yeah, I still want to but continue running though, because my running I think is in a better place than I give it credit for.
Of course, he's mental. Like when you did that 5k PB with no training behind it.
I want to do one of them soon with them new shoes because they're fucking savage. They are.
Do you reckon they're better than the Alpha Flies you've got?
Because they're new. The plate's like super responsive.
Are they still quite cushioned? Or
Enough.
Are they quite stiff?
No, they are stiff, but they're cushioned enough. All the ones with the plate are really stiff. You can't bend them. But for HYROX, they're so good because you've got a lunge and wall ball, all that's really sound. And then you take off on the runs, and actually because the surface you're running on is hard,
there's a lot of
really hard, and you can just spring. It's quite slippy, but I mean, it was really good. I think they're class. So I think round the track, they'd be lethal. And we ran I think we ran a 3:58 off the sled push kilometre.
That's good.
So I think I could probably do a decent 5k. My 5k PB was at 3:48 pace.
That's mad.
So I think
can't leave it alone though, can you?
What?
You couldn't just do a training block of
I couldn't let my running go now.
Well, no, they're still doing running, and then now apparently you're gonna do a 5k
no, I don't
PB.
Know. I don't know. I won't. I probably won't. But what I mean is, I still want to keep my running somewhat where it is because I don't want to lose it. But I just
it's hard though. You're asking for two. You're pulling.
I don't necessarily want to get stackers either. I just want to put the muscle I had back on, or fill them out again. So I feel like in that HYROX block, I got fucking pretty small.
Well, as we know, it's just running, isn't it? You can't get away from the fact that it's just basically running.
Me and Jay were talking about fucking. By the time you finish them sessions, you're like, I'm going to do a bit of arms or whatever after. You're fucked. So you ain't doing anything. And so even if you want to do a bit of upper or whatever, you've just done a mad conditioning piece. You're just fucking hanging out. But so yeah, that's next. Hopefully, just try and get into a little bit of a routine in Bali.
Nice. I think it's always nice to end the year just getting wham. I think.
Yeah, that's what you did last time, just getting strong for the 200 kilo.
Well, I took it to the nth degree. Yeah,
I was trying to get my snatch at that point, wasn't I? I was thinking as well. I was doing 90 kilo power cleans today. Yeah, and it felt really heavy coming off the floor. Yeah. And I was thinking, how the fuck did I throw this over my head early this year? It just shows you, doesn't it, that continued exposure. If something feels like a little bit impossible in the moment, it doesn't matter because continued iteration of it, you feel fine.
Yeah, and then if you take your iron out the fire, you can lose it very quickly, can't you?
Yeah, even if you're still training, which is the scary bit. It's a bit like you with the running stuff, isn't it? I bet sub 4s feel like that's never gonna happen. But if you just kept doing it, you would get there. You know, up to a point. I mean, I don't think any of us could be a fucking 30-minute 10K, but
no, because then you start looking like a fucking pepper army, don't you? You don't look like that. You look like a twiglet. That's gopping.
Yeah.
Horrible to look at that. Malnourished.
You just snap if you look at a fucking weight as well.
I've seen some horrible strength running. You know, like runners when they do come and do my gym session with me in the week. It's bollocks, mate. Yeah. It's not strength training. You look at a barbell.
Yeah, you just sit there and stare at it.
You just happen to now be in an environment where strength training takes place. Yeah. That's as close as you've got to strength training.
You happen to be proximal to
someone who is doing strength training. That's it. It's like strength training through osmosis.
Yeah. Last time I checked, it doesn't really work.
If I look at this powerlifter for long enough, I might kind of absorb some of their kind of
some of their fast twitch muscle fibres.
Yeah. But so that's where we're at now, really, for the rest of the year, isn't it?
Yeah, sort of sets the tone again. HYROX, unfortunately, is out of the window. I reckon we probably had a good chance of going sub 60, you know.
Yeah, we were. Well, I mean, now we've got the thing of do we try and transfer it to another? Because sometimes they let you transfer it to another HYROX within Spain. You know, like as long as it's in the same country, or we can try and turn up and make it work for whenever they rearrange it. But that's in the future, innit? It's in the bin for now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, forget about it for now.
I'm going to become very familiar with the Dell Stadium track in the next month. That's what I know.
Yeah. I'm gonna get fucking towed along on a CrossFit competition I haven't done any prep for.
In Dubai.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The worry thing is the people I'm doing it with have been training 3 times a day for about 3 months for this. And
Well, you just set them up for failure there, haven't you?
I just haven't. But
yeah, well, we'll see. Tune in a couple of weeks' time and we'll find out whether we're live from a fucking
ICU,
yeah.
in Dubai.
In Dubai, yeah.
Paying through my arse for medical.
Yeah, so right, so we'll do some segments now.
Yeah.
We've got a few segments to rattle through. So we'll do Helmet of the Week.
Yeah.
Helmet of the Week. Okay, so this you're not privy to this. This is going to be
this is an exclusive.
Shep doesn't know anything about this, so it's going to be interesting to get his reaction live on the pod. So I don't know if you've seen, but Channel 4 and the Sunday Times have basically done an expose investigation on the Crown Estate,
Right.
Primarily King Charles and Prince William.
Okay. What are the details on this?
Okay, so I'll read out what I've got, and then we can discuss it.
Okay.
So an investigation by Channel 4's Dispatches and the Sunday Times examined the land and properties the 2 leading royals owned through the Duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall. Okay, so the investigation reported that last year, the Duchy of Lancaster agreed a deal to store a new fleet of electric ambulances owned by Guy's and St Thomas's NHS Trust in London in one of the estate's warehouses at a cost of 11.4 million over 15 years. So they this is, right. Let me finish it. It also said the Duchy of Cornwall had charged the Navy more than 1 million since 2004 to build and use jetties on the Cornish coastline.
Stinks this, doesn't it?
Further claims made of the Duchy of Cornwall include that it signed a £37 million deal to lease Dartmoor Prison to the Ministry of Justice and a deal with the MOD to allow the armed forces to train on Dartmoor.
Mad.
So you've got this weird perverted reality where the royals are funded by taxpayer grants, but are also basically creaming rent off publicly owned institutions like the NHS and the MOD and the Ministry of Justice.
That is mad, isn't it? Yeah, that's just so corrupt in so many ways.
Because
we know how poor those fucking
the ambulance thing
organisations
really, the ambulance thing really made me angry. And there's a I forgot where it was, but Prince William got a load of flack because there's a kind of like there's streets of housing somewhere that he's kind of like the landlord of through the Duchy of Cornwall or Lancaster. And this housing is like slum housing.
Yeah.
And the people that live there are kind of like the underclass, effectively, like they're proper hand to mouth kind of.
Okay.
And he's launching campaigns to like end homelessness, and it's just tone deaf, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, it's fucking mad. It is just backwards, isn't it? It's like you say one thing and then you do the other, basically. And it's just these underhand deals.
Yeah, I wanted to get your opinion on obviously someone who was in the military, in the armed forces. The idea that because they love fucking parading the royals in their military regalia, don't they? But ultimately they're profiteering off the back of like Dartmoor.
Yeah, well, it's just it's the massively negative side of capitalism, isn't it? Where obviously that's the game they're playing, and they're playing it very, very well, but they're playing it at the expense of the very people they're trying to serve.
I would argue it's not even capitalism; it's feudalism. Well, it's literally kind of like medieval, like land baron vibes, isn't it? Because it's like they've just, by virtue of them being who they are, have just kind of accumulated.
We own this.
Yeah, we own this, and like even though
if you want to use it,
even though we even though they serve us as a nation, they're still charging like the MOD for the privilege of being on their land. It's meant like you're already getting like 200 million a year to heat Buckingham Palace.
Does that mean that the budget that obviously the defence get, say that's however many millions, half of that gets pushed into the
this
Royals?
is what I mean. It's
just a big fucking...
That's what I mean.
It's so mad.
It's wheels within wheels,
Yeah,
lad.
it really is.
So it's like they're directly getting taxpayers' money anyway.
Yeah.
To kind of like, I forgot what it's called, the name for it, but it's basically they just get taxpayers' money to kind of upkeep all the royal palaces and just
pay themselves and live and do whatever.
Like but then, like you said, the wheels within wheels is that kind of like
the government issues someone a level of money.
So like a certain amount of budget for the MOD, for example, is then also getting siphoned off into them.
Which obviously otherwise could be used for, well, fucking name it, but anything else, right?
Yeah, well, let's say, say you're King Charles, you're like, right, so I'm already getting X amount of taxpayers' money anyway. I've got a property portfolio worth over $1 billion. I probably don't need the 1 million that the MOD are paying me, so, troops can go and exercise on Dartmoor.
Yeah.
I'll just let them do that for free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, as a goodwill gesture, bearing in mind that they let him parade around in all of his fake medals.
Yeah, it speaks to human beings' level of greed, doesn't it? And just the fact that it's never, for certain people anyway, it's never enough. And like he's got, however many fucking millions coming in from taxpayers' money and all this sort of stuff. But also, he's like, well, there's an extra million I could squeeze out of the fucking MOD, so I'll get that out of them as well, and I'll get this and that. And it's like, at some point, you've got to go, I'm all right here. I've got enough. And actually, these are the people who objectively like protect my interests overseas and stuff. So maybe I should probably let them do things free. Because if that, obviously they can use different training areas and stuff, but if they don't let you use Dartmoor or Salisbury or whatever, then the army just can't train. No.
Yeah.
Great.
And I mean, to be honest, I don't know how I don't know how deliberate this is. Like, when you've got a property portfolio worth $1
probably
billion,
just goes under the...
He probably wasn't even aware of it, because he won't deal with it directly, will he?
If it's worth $1 billion, $1 million is genuinely nothing.
That's what I mean. But like...
So what I mean is he probably doesn't even notice.
But the fact that... Because I know that the Queen, in the past, has lobbied Parliament to keep the royals kind of like... finances private, not publicly known, which was probably
wonder why.
Well, now we know why.
Yeah.
But the fact that no one, I'm not saying that King Charles deals with this directly because he won't, but like whoever's responsibility is within, like the Duchy of Cornwall or Lancaster would think this is a PR disaster waiting to happen.
I've never thought about this.
We should probably detach ourselves from it.
I wonder actually how it fucking even works, because do the royals have like accountants? Do they get income? Do they have to pay tax on their income?
But this is what I mean.
What happens?
It's so weird because it's like a feudal system operating within a capitalist system.
It makes no sense.
Because they have just that, they have that land by virtue of just being them.
No, I know the land's one thing, but obviously they have... Well, they have to live this lavish lifestyle and travel and have expenses paid for and all that sort of stuff.
But that's all taxpayer funded.
That's what I'm saying.
But then they're actually making personal profit also from taxpayers' money, but indirectly.
Yeah, it is mental.
That's
I always think... So they didn't pay any tax?
I don't know what the tax situation is, but like...
Because if they're getting taxpayers' money as income...
to then pay tax.
To then not pay tax on it, or to pay tax, either one's mental. But obviously one's more beneficial for us than that. But this is what tax fucking is a bit of a mad system, because you just don't know where it goes, do you? We spoke about this loads,
and it's like budgets as well. So like you see, when Rachel Reeves announced kind of like the Labour budget, last week or whatever, she's announcing X amount for the Department of Education.
Yeah.
Which at face value sounds great.
Oh, you go, sweet, okay, education.
More,
you just think of more teachers.
Yeah, but
actually,
because also within his property portfolio are schools.
Yeah, so he gets to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was a car crash, by the way, wasn't it? We're not going to tax national insurance. Oh, national insurance.
Yeah,
tax.
The budget. Unfortunately, though, whoever's in charge, because Britain, for lack of a better phrase, is pretty skint. There was never going to be like...
They've got to rob Peter to pay Paul, but you can also not lie about it, can't you?
Yeah, they shot themselves in the foot really when they were campaigning because
massively.
they basically said we're not going to make any, we're not going to tax anyone. But then how do governments generate?
You've got to.
How did governments generate funds?
Specific areas that they said they weren't going to tax, they now have taxed, which completely undermines.
What's the primary way that governments generate funding to then invest in things? You taxation. Yeah. So like by saying that you're not going to raise any taxes, like you've shot yourself in the foot because what can you do?
Yeah, and the fact that the economy is in such a state, they would have had to. What's interesting is current affairs. Donald Trump has obviously said he isn't going to tax anything.
Got to talk about the Donald.
He's because obviously he's mental, and actually I think someone was saying forecasting wise, like in the future, this will be a nightmare. But short term, he's like, I'm going to just fucking lower all taxes to a record low.
Yeah.
And he thinks that's going to be the way to drive economic growth.
Well, he's not an economist, is he?
He's not. That way. But
and he's not even a good business person because his companies have gone bankrupt 6 times.
True, not great. Mind you, some people declare bankruptcy on purpose because it can be beneficial.
I think he was born out of ignorance, in fairness.
I don't know, mate. You've got to give him some credit.
I've been reading into it.
He's a fucking some level of spinster to go get elected, then have that massive drop off, then get elected again. He's fucking mental.
He's going to make a great film one day, but
at the very least,
ultimately, it is quite depressing.
It is, but I do wonder whether it's a completely like left field ability or approach to taxation. Is I'm going to lower everything rather than, like you said, most governments will increase taxes in certain areas to raise capital. But his argument is let's drop it a little bit or a lot. I think in his idea, and then people have more money, and then they employ more people, and then they spend more money, and then it starts to. Like the economy grows in that way.
I guess it all comes down fundamentally to your perspective on the role of government. Because if you see government as very kind of non-interventionist and basically let people get on with what they want, then you don't need to generate funds to then keep stuff like public services going. So that was obviously the Thatcher model. It was like we're just going to strip everything. And then people have their own personal freedom. There's no such thing as society. It's all that.
Yeah.
So he's obviously come from that doctrine, but then kind of like the more left field you go, everything, more things are kind of dictated by the state. So you then need kind of, you need to generate taxes to then fund all of that.
Stuff. It's just interesting, isn't it? Because which is right, None of it seems to fucking work fundamentally.
Well, there isn't a right answer, is there really? Like, the older I grow up, I actually think that the best model of government is a benign dictatorship, like China, which isn't even that benign.
No, it's not.
But like, look, I promise I don't fucking work for the Chinese Communist Party. But like, if you look at the state that Western kind of democracy is in, and then you see like the mega infrastructure projects that China are just kind of like knocking out year on year.
Yeah, I mean,
which don't even go reported in the West because they're just so common now.
But lack of human rights plays a massive part in that.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like
you can get a lot done. You can have everyone working 20-hour days with no breaks. You know what I mean? That's obviously a factor. But yeah, I don't know. I think America, I would imagine, probably reacts quite well to that non-interventionist style, which is why he's got in.
Yeah,
he's very much of that. Because they're like fucking hell, independent, this and that. And
but they're very anti-gut, like the
anti-establishment.
Yeah, the United States was born out of an anti-establishment sentiment, wasn't it? But the anti-establishment sentiment was towards Britain.
Yeah.
And so it's actually enshrined within their constitution that there is a fear of government. That's kind of like where the right to bear arms comes from, isn't it?
Yeah,
so you're right.
Interesting. And that's probably why he's galvanised the nation a little bit more.
It's mental. I have no qualms with Donald Trump. If anything, I actually think he's on some really perverse level a genius.
He is, yeah.
Because to do what he's done and then still get re-elected, he's fucking mental.
Crazy.
Like he's a genius.
He's a master debater, is what he is.
He's a masturbator.
Master debater.
Anyway, but regardless of that, what's depressing is I've massively underestimated just how retarded the general US population is.
Because they've
Because what you've done there is, as a nation, really nationwide, you've demonstrated just a complete and utter absence of critical thinking, really.
Yeah, I mean, what it is I think a large part of, well, I don't know. There's obviously a large part of the American population that feed into this, but the woke agenda, which he's Kamala Harris pretty much. He just provides a massive antidote to that.
Well, he says he does.
Well, this is what I mean. But that's all you can
Well, this
go.
is
That's all you can go
that's
off,
where the
isn't
lack of critical thinking comes, because
it?
Trump is
in a
just
campaign. That's all you can go off, isn't it?
Yeah, but again, this is the problem with populist politics, because it gets people on sides and it gets votes, but it doesn't actually provide any political answers to anything.
Oh, no.
So when
it's the person who wins is the person who can win an argument.
Yeah, which is why it's mental that he's kind of got in for a second time, because he's effectively a busted flush.
Yeah, but then I'll give him another chance.
Yeah, that's the mental thing, isn't it? And he's actually in a worse position, because since he left office, he obviously incited an insurrection.
Yeah.
And he's now awaiting his sentencing for the various
It
kind
is
of
wild,
criminal
that.
convictions.
But I mean, all the stuff that's come about in terms of his assassination attempt and all that kind of stuff feeds in. Him being on Joe Rogan a week before, it's fucking genius, really, from a PR standpoint. Not obviously it depends what you think. He didn't try and get shots, but the way he came back from that and the way he spoke afterwards and all this sort of stuff, like the day after with his fucking thing on his ear. Like, his brand is fucking insane. Going on Joe Rogan, getting 50 million plays in 2 days or whatever it was. Like, it's mental.
But is it actually a genius PR? Or is he just in a really kind of fortunate position whereby he's got a complete kind of free reign to say whatever he wants? So, the game's almost rigged in his favour. He must be one of the few people in the world who can say whatever they want about anything and then face no real repercussions for it. Do you know what I mean?
He's not held accountable to much, is he?
So it's not like he's navigated these situations particularly well, because he comes out of most things like a car crash.
Yeah.
But because that's just what's expected of him, he's kind of rigged the game in his favour.
Yeah, I don't know what it's really hard to pinpoint what he's good at, which is a
He's
problem.
not. This is the thing. But because people think he's just funny and a buffoon.
Well, this is where Boris Johnson came in it as well. Same thing. Same. Boris Johnson is the UK answer to Donald Trump.
He's like an absolute moron and a genius simultaneously.
Which is mad. But that's why he's probably so endearing to some people.
Yeah.
And there's no getting away from the fact he is hilarious. And sometimes that counts for a lot when you're against dry fucking Kamala.
Well, I was saying this. The leader of the free world isn't supposed to be a stand-up comedian. He's now in charge.
Nowadays, though, because again, Scott Gallo was talking about this. He's a Kamala Harris fan, and he was saying it's the first election where things like podcasts and TikTok and everything else has played a massive role. Because before, you would see your, the campaigner or the candidate on specific, debates, and they'd be just in the one place behind the thing, and they'd be like, okay, it's an official debate. You see them for an hour, and that's it. But now you can see them all the time. You get consistent exposure to them, their memes and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So they start to build this character.
It's echo chamber, isn't it?
Well, it's a character they create, isn't it? Rather than them just being a politician, they are now, a comedian, a fucking talk show host, a podcast guest, a fucking whatever. So it's completely different, and the type of person that rises to the top in that environment is very, very different to the type of person who does really well by just being on TV for an hour a week.
Yeah, it's
really different.
Again, it's a lack of critical thinking, though, on the part of most people, because we compare politicians to the metrics that we would, hold entertainers to. But they're not entertained.
True.
They are serious people who have to make serious decisions about.
True. But caveat and a devil's advocate would be that actually, so again, when people were just seeing them on TV, they'd probably Fox News fucking debate or whatever, get 500,000 plays maybe on live. That's not the whole country. Now you've got them everyone has TikTok, everyone has Instagram. So are they actually now is that a better representation of the entire population of a country? Because now more people, like I say, 44 million people on Rogan saw him and thought,
yeah, but that's still a very specific demographic, isn't it? That's still predominantly young white men.
Yeah, that's an example, isn't it? I mean, she was on Call Her Daddy podcast, wasn't
yeah,
she?
Which again is a very it's just you just feed in further. Like the American electoral system effectively is broken. Because it always just comes down to a very few swing states. Like most votes are nailed on.
Yeah. It's like 5 swing states, isn't there?
Yeah, which is bollocks because that's not kind of representational, is it? Like
no,
it always comes down to just a few votes, really, which is not a good kind of gauge for how democratic the process is it?
Well, it's the same as this country, really. Similar too.
But the Trump thing is fucking mental, and ultimately he speaks to people who just don't really want to. Think.
No. Look, it's difficult, isn't it? I think he provides a some level, and I don't know how he's not tremendously I think aspirational looking, but he provides an aspirational answer because he's like, we're going to go and get this done. He's like he's quite like and again Americans love that.
I know, but again it's all
bravado.
He's done 4 years.
It's all bravado, but. Compared to
knocking your head against the wall.
Yeah, compared to the other option, I think he's probably.
He obviously he resonates with a type of person who just has no real regard for data or
because that's exactly
science,
what he does.
Or it's to use a Wagamama's analogy. He's like people that pretend that they like the chicken katsu curry the most on the menu. It's not. Yeah, you just aren't kind of sophisticated enough to appreciate everything else on the menu. Yeah, so it's like
that's not the best thing. But
it's not the best thing, but because that's all you really understand, because you know kind of like what kick the immigrants out is, and you can get your head around that as opposed to kind of like some complex kind of like immigration policy.
Yeah. You
just pin your flag to that mast.
Build a wall.
I know what a wall is.
Yeah.
I don't know. So you pretend that that's what you're about, just because the rest of it's too intimidating to actually kind of like comprehend.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. He said he's going to stop the war. So
he said a lot of things. These are the things that we need to judge him on. So he said within 2 minutes of being in office, he's going to end the Ukrainian war.
2 minutes. I just love.
Well, technically, he's not taken office yet, so he could still do that.
But it's going to be statements. They're so brilliant. Like he's going to sit someone down in a room and just like, have you heard the bit about Macron or whatever his name is in the fucking
Emmanuel Macron, the French
dude,
president,
when he was trying to raise tariffs on American businesses, and he said he rang him up and he went, listen, Emmanuel, he's like, if you do that, I'm gonna put 100% tariffs on your wines and champagne, and he went, oh no, Donald, you can't do that. It's this, and he's like, look. Just don't do it. It's not an area you want to go into. And then he dropped it within the next 2 minutes. That's what he says.
No. What
so many. I mean, my TikTok this week has just been clips of Donald Trump. It's fucking been great.
Well, that's why I've stopped going on TikTok this week. He has quite blazingly said though, like while he's been campaigning, if he gets into office, he's going to use his kind of presidential powers to go after his enemies. Which is all levels of kind of like dictatory vibes. And I'm not saying he's a dictator, but like that's not very democratic, is it? You're now using presidential powers that have been
granted
to you democratically to just basically chase after people you don't get on with.
Yeah, and also now that he's still got an outstanding court thing, hasn't he?
What? Because it's never happened before. Because guess what? You don't normally.
Also, like as the literally the most powerful man in the world, who's going to convict him?
Yeah, it's just so bad for American soft power, isn't it? Because like America is, and has been, since the end of the Second World War, kind of like the police force of the world.
Yeah.
The leader of that police force now is a criminal. So what does that say to American democracy, as a tool for kind of negotiating peace in kind of like the Middle East and stuff? They're just going to, like Hamas and Hezbollah are just going to turn around and go, we're going to take a peace deal from you, you fucking convicted criminal.
Yeah, but again, because he's quite erratic, for want of a better word, and he will just take action on things, or that's what he says anyway.
Well, foreign policy-wise, he won't take action. That's what people are worried about. So, like with the Ukraine and Russia, because he's very isolationist and he's American first, like he just doesn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, I guess so.
So he's probably not going to engage with the Middle East. He's certainly going to try and withdraw US support from Ukraine, which is bad for us in Europe. Because then that leads us to fend
puts
for
the
ourselves.
burden onto us, doesn't it?
And what does that? And then that gives Putin a green light to then basically take what he wants in Russia's backyard. And then what does that say to China, who've got their eye on Taiwan? You know, it's like this is all very complicated stuff that the average American voter just doesn't comprehend
and Donald Trump himself fundamentally doesn't understand. Which is funny, but yeah, we'll see. See if the world's still around in 4 years.
Because do you know what he did last time he got into the office? So when he got elected in 2016, was it?
Mm-hmm.
There's an entire kind of like civil service infrastructure in the US that he's hired every 4 years to deal with the transition between offices. As soon as he got into office, he just fired them all. So for like 2 years, Obama curated this specialist staff of like thousands of people whose sole job it was to make the transition from the Obama presidency to the Trump presidency as seamless as possible. Yeah. He got into the White House and just basically said, I don't want to listen to any of them. They're all fired.
I can't help but find that funny. That's hilarious. She's like, I don't need them. They're fucking surplus to describe it.
You know, and you think about how complex kind of like the US government is. So like the
he just sees it very black and white, doesn't it? He's like, he sat behind the desk. No, I'll just sit behind the desk. That's it.
It's like the department.
Why do you need a department for that?
The Department of Defense alone is the biggest employer in the US. It employs like 3 million people. So like, you'd think that you need kind of like SEMs to see the handover of that, because it's kind of, you know, if it was a business, it would probably be one of the wealthiest businesses in the world.
It is.
And he's just like, all these people that worked for years on the transit, he's like, just get rid of them.
Get rid of him, don't he? So funny. He's just an idiot. But we just will see how it goes on. But we'll see if World War III happens in 2 weeks.
Well, he didn't make Americans any better off the last time he was in office. Not through any fault of his own anyway. Like, they might have been marginally better off because of like, global inflation.
Well, didn't he have COVID and that sort of stuff as well?
Yeah, he had COVID. But like, none of his policies actually benefited the Americans that he supposedly represented. So I don't know what they expect the second time around.
I don't know. It's mad, isn't it? It's like fucking struck by lightning twice. But anyway, we diverged a little bit.
If you're sat here thinking, we can just watch the dumpster fire from across the Atlantic. It unfortunately, when you are now in charge of 25% of the global economy and the world's police force and the world's biggest military-industrial complex, it does have kind of like reverberations around the world. You know, it's not like the president of Zimbabwe is an actual clown. You know what I mean? Because you can all just laugh at Zimbabwe because, you know, they turn up at the Olympics and he makes a gaffe, you know, and he disgraces himself when he meets the Queen.
America's a little bit more influential, isn't it?
Watch this space, but I don't think it's going to end well. He's got to laugh. It's funny. Laugh or you cry.
It's funny. I mean, hopefully there's not a bit like how I feel about most changes politically. I don't really feel like you feel the reverberations too much on the ground level normally, and so I'm hoping that's the case, and we can just laugh at it from afar. But we'll see.
That's normally though, because there's a massive kind of like civil service infrastructure operating in the background who actually do know what they're doing. But the dangerous thing about Donald Trump is he kind of like consciously tries to undo that.
Yeah. Well, he wants to make impact, doesn't he? But I still think literally like day to day, the average person, your day might change fucking 5% or whatever. I don't think it's going to be this mad fucking. It never is. Never is.
Well, not in the UK anyway. Not unless he does, end the Ukrainian war. In which case, then that could, long term be quite painful. Have you seen he wants to make Elon Musk the head of?
Yeah.
What is it? The Department of Government Efficiency, Doge.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
He has no experience in government. Like, he's not a civil servant. He doesn't know how government departments work. He knows how.
He doesn't know how businesses work, though.
Well, arguably, does he actually know how hands-on at Tesla is he now? Because
maybe not now, but he's scaled it up to fucking however much.
But that's so deep. Like, managing a startup is so different to running.
Yeah, but lad, you can't get it to that. You can't get Tesla to that level without levels of competency and work ethic that 99.9% of the population do not have.
But it's a completely different kettle of fish. He's running government departments don't operate like businesses.
But maybe they could and they'd be better.
Well, we'll
see.
Again,
What
we always say.
You say what you want about Elon Musk. He is the biggest individual taxpayer in the world.
What's that got to do with any? That's what
£12 billion in tax the other year. It's mental. It's just mental, isn't it?
He's a narcissistic freak.
Yeah, but I think most people in those really upper echelon positions of success are narcissistic freaks because you can't have balance and be in that.
That's the antithesis of what you need within government. Like civil servants are the opposite. It's like the difference between.
He's not like doing the groundwork, is he? He's not like doing the leg.
No, but if he's overseeing it and he's just basically like kind of slash and burning it like he does with his companies.
I'm sure he wouldn't have like complete power to just make decisions. I'd imagine there'll be heads of department around him. Look, just like there are with Donald Trump.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But I think it's going to end quite ugly for Elon Musk because he's turning Twitter into an absolute cesspool. It's just basically his own personal propaganda platform now, to the extent where it's just ruined everything that was good about Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter's fucked, isn't it? But
so if he does get his hands on certain elements of the reins within the US government, it'd be interesting to see how much of a car crash that turns out to be.
It will. I don't know. I imagine financially they might end up better off, maybe, or he might end up better off. But I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Who knows?
But it's just a bit depressing, isn't it? Really, because you've got our royal family who are just creaming profits out of taxpayers that they already.
Yeah, but I always think again. Like, I just think this fucking me worrying about this makes no fucking difference. And I whether I think about it and think it's fucking shit or whether I don't, it doesn't matter. Because they're going to do it anyway, because they're humans, they're all greedy, and they're all wankers. It doesn't matter whether I think they're cunts or whether I don't think they're cunts. They're going to do the same thing. So I may as well just focus on what I want to do. And I've always, call it ignorance, which it probably is, but, you know, me focusing on those things makes no difference. I can't go up to Donald Trump and go, oi, big un, fucking do a better job.
No, I appreciate there's probably no point someone in the UK getting stressed out about Donald Trump. But I mean,
even to an extent in America, I know again it's probably closer to home. But if you're a massive Conservative fan and Keir Starmer gets in, well, fucking who cares?
Like the royal family thing is mental though. Like he shouldn't be charging the MOD for people to train on Dartmoor
and of course it should piss you off. But I'm saying just don't let it ruin your day. It's a bit like if you support a football team.
Oh yeah.
And they lose, don't let it ruin your week. You know, it's like fucking hell.
I'm not saying that people should have sleepless nights about it, but it's about having that kind of like collective consciousness to care about it, and then be like, right, well, this probably needs to end, and then it's obviously about coming together.
Yeah, but I don't know how much that fucking happens because
because that sense of community now has dissipated, hasn't it?
Yeah.
In the past, you know, with like kind of like collective struggle and hardship, you know, people would go on strike and stuff, but with the dissolution of like unions and stuff, there isn't that mechanism for ordinary people come together and have kind of like, you know, power in protest.
Nah, it's true.
That sense of community.
There isn't as much of that now. I don't know why that is.
Which I think leaves a lot to be desired actually, because you know humans ultimately need belonging. They need to feel a part of a tribe. So we have these kind of like online echo chambers that we belong to now. But is that that's not?
It's not tangible.
That's not a substitute for actual real community, is it?
No.
I think a lot of people's kind of social issues and anxieties would be kind of appeased and solved if they did have, you know, if there was more of a tangible community.
What would that look like nowadays?
Well, how it used to look like. Like you'd know, like your immediate neighbours, like you'd go and...
What's been the catalyst for that dissipating, do you reckon?
Social media, isn't it? Because now you interact with people online instead of actually in real life, and it's, you know, we've been told that it's kind of like the future, but it's not, because actually, we haven't evolved to do that. It's the
antithesis of connection, isn't it? Yeah. Because it's supposed to be social media,
it's anti-social media.
It is really, and it's a bit of a shame. It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? Because you can now surround yourself with more people, you know, that you could ever do before, because you can reach someone in Australia or whatever it is. But actually, like you say, that's not a tangible connection, is it? Really?
It's quantity over quality, isn't it? It's like where's the actual kind of like meaning and connection
and the depth
there
of that interaction.
If anything, it probably goes completely the opposite direction, where it's overwhelming, because there's now, it's the paradox of choice, isn't it? There's now so many different communities and clubs and forums and kind of echo chambers that you can be a part of, that you don't kind of meaningfully belong to anything. You're just kind of like floating through the ether, aren't you?
True, but I mean, surely you could take some agency to try and be a part of a meaningful community.
Yeah, 100%. But I don't think people do, because we kind of
like gyms or fucking running clubs or whatever it is now.
Yeah, that's it.
That's an example of that. And actually, social media can be good for that, because you can say, fucking 24/7 represent running club in Manchester City Centre is going to happen this Saturday, and you get fucking 200 people coming together. That sort of thing could never happen before, because not how many flyers you put out, you're going to reach 1 million people. Eh?
Yeah, it could happen, but not instantaneously. I see what you mean.
But it'd be not as easy, not with the scale they can do it at. You can't pop up running clubs in different fucking areas of the city and stuff and have that much attendance. Probably, like it would be just more difficult to align that.
But I think, for me anyway, it's like there's no, like the nucleus of a community now has been removed. I know rightfully or wrongfully in the past, in Britain anyway, it's probably the pub,
or the church,
But like that's now, there's no physical manifestation of like a community. Like,
no, and actually the more, which is kind of a little bit of a weird outcome. Like the more people who now don't drink on weekends, because the more and more people are sober now. That removes that even further. And so if you are on your little fucking winter arc, where you're not seeing anyone, your hood's up and you fucking, this and that. You're not,
That's so toxic as well, by the way. That whole Goggins like winter arc.
Yeah.
Because it just breeds incels. Like, and you know exactly what I mean when I say this, don't you? But like, the person in question is a freak, and he's going to shoot up a school at some point.
Yeah.
Because it does breed a kind of like toxic kind of perspective towards wider society, doesn't it? Where it's kind of like you against the world, kind
very
of like
individualistic, isn't it?
It's masochistic in the sense that it's all just about pain. There's no real empathy or compassion.
And obviously
there.
It depends on how, like the form of which this kind of takes, doesn't it? Sometimes it can be a productive thing, and you're just working on yourself for an extended period of time. That's fine.
But if you follow the Goggins doctrine, though, it isn't really self-care, is it? It
goes full circle.
It actually goes full circle, and it becomes destructive, because nothing that he really espouses is sustainable.
I don't think his message is tremendously productive, to be honest. I think again, it's extremes, though, isn't it?
It's weird. He is like the kind of he's the populist, or the populist of the fitness industry. His message is very persuasive, and a lot of people can get on board with it. And it speaks to a type of masculinity that people think that they've lost. But actually, it's not reproductive. No, he is a bit like the Donald Trump of fitness.
What I think these things do is they provide an extreme viewpoint. Where, same as like, look at Alex Hormozy and like work-life balance and all this kind of stuff. He exists on the absolute fringe of that, and so does like David Goggins of like physical challenge, mental challenge. Right, the camera packed in, so we're now on a different camera.
Yeah, we're now on a different camera, and I don't know, you were saying something about David Goggins, but I can't remember, to be honest.
Yeah, so. I was just basically saying that those individuals on that end of the spectrum do offer up sometimes a useful comparison to sometimes the other more quote unquote woke agendas, and I do think sometimes it gives people something to aspire to. Shouldn't necessarily be copied. I
think that's wherein lies the issue, isn't it? Because
that's the thing. Obviously, this is the problem. Whole problem with social media, which we've got into loads,
is that people can't find balance anymore with anything.
No,
we live in a world of extremes, don't we? Where everything exists in an echo chamber, and
exactly
the idea of nuance. I mean, this is kind of like the hidden underlying message of this podcast. Really, we're constantly trying to reinforce people to kind of see nuance and balance and middle ground,
rather than just polarity. Because social media is very bad at that, because it's little sound bites, but podcasts, that's where they can come in useful, because they're longer form. And I think these people, in terms of David Goggins or Hormozy, are the two I use, but they offer a perspective and a context, And it means that, for me anyway, at least for me, I'm never going to work as much as fucking Alex Hormozy or make as much money as him, or neither should I try to. But him having done it means that it expands my ceiling. And the same with Goggins. I'm never going to run a 240 mile fucking marathon, right? But him having done it and being a human means that, oh, maybe I can run a fucking 30 mile or a 50 mile or whatever. You know, it's that's their kind of message does that for me.
That's great because you possess critical thinking skills. People who aren't kind of cognitively equipped, you know, to the extent that you are, see David Goggins, because they lack the creativity that you do. They just think, right, copy and paste.
Yeah, and that's the issue.
And this I think is a symptom of social media, because the kind of the type of sound bites that kind of people get on board with people like David Goggins and Donald Trump and Hormozy is a product of the attention deficit that we've developed through
now
social
people
media.
Can only literally focus on this
Because nuance and kind of balance and middle ground come from long form content, you know, thinking things through, long conversations. No one has the attention for that anymore. No. So you have to latch on to an extreme because it's the only thing that you have time to actually process.
True. Yeah, it's interesting. There's like I said, well, social media has a lot to answer for on all of these ends and all of these fronts, doesn't it? But fundamentally, I think the take home message is as it always is, which is just think about what you're inputting into your brain before it comes in. But like I say, I think there are a lot of voices on the other end of the spectrum as well. I don't necessarily get too much fucking engagement with those people because it's just not my algorithm. But they definitely exist, and I think that an antidote to that maybe isn't the worst thing in the world. And like most people, the fucking 85% of people should exist in the middle somewhere, and it's a spectrum, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's not like you have to be one or the other. You can be on the more Gogginsy end of the spectrum, or you can be on the more whatever.
Yeah. So what you can do is you can be in the more balanced end of the spectrum and enjoy your life, or you can be the more Gogginsy end of the spectrum, hate your life, and also get shin splints. So the decision is yours. True.
I do think there's again another useful caveat, which again, nuance and all that sort of stuff. I agree that David Goggins probably doesn't enjoy his life too much. However, there is also a reality that there is a truth, I think, anyway, that relatively, that's the key word, relatively, doing hard things serves you and makes you actually have a better life. So sometimes just seeking, I guess, comfort and balance isn't the optimal, because you actually need to extend yourself to then have the context on when you're chilling, and you can actually enjoy it more because you've had the experience of pushing. That can be physical or business or work related or whatever.
You've just described carrot and stick. He's just stick.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't think his message
just
is
delayed
that
gratification in the extreme, isn't he? Because there's then no gratification.
Yeah. But again, like, it's about drawing from these people rather than going like adopting it wholesale like a onesie and just moving through life with their message. Because also, like, your psyche isn't mine, isn't Ed's, isn't David Goggins. You know, it's everyone's made up differently, and like, you know, most people probably don't work as much as I do, but then I work a fraction amount of other people. You know, so it's just levels, isn't it? You know, so whatever.
I have a really quick pet peeve that I want to finish on.
Go for it,
brother. What's that? What's that, brother?
I think you'll get on board with this. This is streaming sites that have to numerically order the Harry Potter series, effectively for dumb Americans.
For people who can't, people who can't read the word philosophers.
Yeah, or who ultimately can't be asked to learn the order of the films.
Yeah, that's so true.
And let's be honest, it's not the fucking Da Vinci Code, is it?
No, there are fucking 8 of them. You know, it's not like you have to learn it. But that is very true. I didn't even think about
that. And 2 of them
in
the same film. It's
part
1 and 2.
Netflix does it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where it's like 0 to 8.
It's 1. And you know exactly who they're catering for there. It's fucking ignorant, fat Americans. My favourite people. And it's so annoying because ultimately that is diluting the art.
Well,
you know, J.K. Rowling created, you know, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Like, that is its name.
Yeah.
You're kind of doing it...
They've actually changed the name in America to the Sorcerer's Stone.
Because they don't know what...
they can't
Because they don't know
figure
what
out what a
philosopher is.
philosopher is. That is wild, isn't it? That speaks volumes, actually, doesn't it? And that was obviously 2001, but it would seem that we haven't really made much progress on that.
I just saw it the other day and I was like, is that really what we've come to now?
Mad.
Like...
It is mad.
And people, like, we're not even at a point where people, you just leave it as it is. And then if people aren't already, you know, familiar with the most famous movie and book franchise of all time, then you could Google it to find out which order they're in. But because we live in such
a massive stretch, is it?
Because we live in such an instant gratification driven world, people just need to know instantaneously whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 or 7.
You have no time to think about, okay, that one's fucking Prisoner of Azkaban, that one's, which one's that? Okay, yeah, it's 3. But like, you have to...
I'm going to watch Harry Potter 3 tonight.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's bollocks, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't... And also, we shouldn't be, you know, adhering to those people, because they...
Well, society can only move as fast as the slowest person.
Therein lies the problem.
Unfortunately, the slowest person is getting slower.
Yeah,
that's the issue, isn't it?
Lies the issue. Yeah, I mean, that's a very valid pet peeve. Now it's a new one of mine.
I hate it. It makes me angry. I'm going to watch Harry Potter 5.
Well, you just default to all of these people being American.
They are, though, aren't they?
I bet Harry Potter's not even on the American Netflix.
It definitely fucking... They've adopted it, and they've built a theme park for it, and ultimately, anything that America touches, they've ruined it.
But I would like to caveat this whole episode. I like America.
Fucking shit.
Anyway, that's job done. But I always do this. But next time,
we don't know.
We do not know. But I wanted to give a little bit of a marching order in terms of where we'll be. So, like we said, I'll be in Dubai until next Monday, but then Tuesday we'll do a record or something and then pop it through that. So it'll be a slightly late episode. That's why I wanted to cover next week.
We are actually gonna, we'll do this off air, but we are actually going to be quite clever about our recordings because you're not here much for the rest of the year.
True.
So we'll have to batch cook, I think.
Yeah, to get you flown out to Bali.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, well, you don't need to worry about that. You just tune in. We'll do that. But, we'll see you next week. And hopefully, even we don't know what it's about.
And hopefully Trump hasn't ended the world by that point.